One of the strangest things about the Abraham stories in Genesis is the fact that everything seems to happen twice. Once in this week's Parashat, Lecha, and again in next week's Parashat, Vayera. Sarai, Abraham's wife, is taken by Pharaoh, king of Egypt, in this week's Torah portion, and by Avimelech, king of Gerar, in next week's Torah portion. Lot and the people of Sodom get into trouble both this week and next week. This week, Abraham saves them all from defeat in war, and next week, Lot is saved while Sodom is destroyed. Sarai mistreats her handmaiden Hagar, who then flees to the desert in this week's parasha, and Sarah expels Hagar and her son from the household in next week's parasha, and Hagar once again flees to the desert. Isaac's birth is foretold this week, and Abraham laughs. It is foretold again next week, and Sarah laughs. Abraham is commanded to take a sharp instrument and circumcise himself and his son Ishmael this week, and he is commanded to take a knife and slaughter his son Isaac next week. A careful reading reveals an important difference between the plot of the stories in this week's parasha, Lecha, and their parallels in next week's parasha, Vayera. Avram takes the initiative and is proactive this week, while next week, the parallel events happen without his direct intervention, and in some case in complete contravention of his own instincts. Avram sells Sarai to Paro, and it is clear that he is a party to the deal. But Sarah is taken by Avimelech next week on Avimelech's initiative and without compensation. Only when giving Sarah back to Abraham does Avimelech compensate her and he. Avram acts heroically in taking military action against Sodom's enemies in this week's parsha. Next week, God sends angels to save Lot and destroy Sodom without Abraham's direct intervention, after an unsuccessful attempt by Abraham to save Lot and Sodom through prayer. Abraham gives Sarai carte blanche to treat Hagar however she likes in this week's parasha. In next week's parasha, God and Sarah collaborate in expelling Hagar despite Abraham's objection. Abraham laughs when told of Isaac's birth this week. He pointedly does not laugh next week. Sarah does. Abraham circumcises himself and his son this week. He ultimately refrains from sacrificing his son next week. I would like to suggest that at the end of this week's parasha, God expresses reservations about Abraham's proactive personality. And that is why he urges him, Hitalech lefanai ve'yeh tamim. Walk before me and be tamim. The word tamim is variously interpreted, but I think it should be understood in the sense used in modern Hebrew. Tamim means naive. Be tamim, says God to Abraham. Be naive, be childlike, be passive. You need not always take the initiative. Sometimes you can allow yourself to take it easy and go with the flow. As Rashi interprets the commandment in Deuteronomy, be tamim with the Lord your God, Rashi says, whatever befalls you, accept with tmimut, equanimity, and then you will be with God and become his portion. I see the events of next week's parasha as corrective experiences in a spirit of naivete. The transition from activism to naivete is apparent in Abraham's life, but the ultimate ideal of tmimut, naivete, is achieved by his son Isaac, whom the rabbis term an olat tamimah, literally a perfect whole offering, perfect being the same word in Hebrew as tamim, naive. Isaac experiences life as it befalls him, without challenging it. He goes out to meditate in nature and accepts his children as they are. This is the ideal in my view. May we all be blessed with God's blessing to Abraham. Walk before me and be tamim. Shavua Tov from Schechter.